Music is one of the most important things in a lot of people's lives, but how accessible is it anymore? That's what we're here to find out. Music is the soundtrack to our lives, the universal language that transcends borders and connects souls. But what happens when the joy of music isn't accessible to everyone? Live music is more than just entertainment, it's a vital part of our culture. It creates community, sparks creativity and provides comfort in times of trouble. The energy of a live performance is like no other, creates memories that last a lifetime. Yet for many this experience is out of reach. Financial problems, disabilities, geographic locations and even age can create barriers that prevent people from experiencing the magic of live music. Some research I have done, I have found out many shocking things. For example, from the BBC website it states that concert tickets are costing the same amount as gaming consoles. The fact that ticket prices have shot up by 23% last year, having risen already 19% since the pandemic. Going to a gig can cost the same amount as taking a holiday, and prices are only rising. This is stopping the general public from being able to attend the concerts. This can really affect people because for a lot of people this is their way to connect to others and socialise. Some artists though are trying to overcome the ticket prices and make a change for themselves. For example, once again from the BBC website says singer-songwriter Yungblud organises his own festival in Milton Keynes on August 2024, setting prices at a market-beating £49.50. He was compelled to take action after noticing unsold seats on his US arena tour last year. 500 seats would be completely empty because there were £200 a ticket. He told Music Week, "I'd have 1,000 kids outside the venue who couldn't afford to come in, and I was like, something's got to change here." So changes are trying to be made by certain people, but this needs to be seen a lot more, otherwise the problem's just going to get worse. Now we will hear from the band member Paul Body to see what he has to say on the matter.
I've been going to gigs for a long time, since I was a teenager, so a good 30 odd years I think. With a lot of music, if you get into a particular band and you buy their music, then it's natural you want to go and see them live. So the first band I saw live was a band called Depeche Mode, who were the first band I got into in the 80s. And so they were my first gig. I would say, I've been to a few memorable gigs. One of the most memorable ones was a band called Rammstein. They're like a German industrial band that use a lot of pyrotechnics and have a massive stage set. So I've seen them about 4 times, but one of their shows they did at Milton Keynes was just mind-blowing. They'd almost kind of built a city within the arena, and there's loads of fire and explosions, and it was very exciting. So the question, the favourite kind of style of music I like to see live tends to be rock-based stuff. I have a bit of a problem. I love electronic music, but there's a real thing these days as to how much is being played live, how much is being mimed, that kind of thing. So I think given a choice, I'd rather see real musicians, which doesn't always guarantee that everything is live, but I tend to prefer that to actually see a proper band, that kind of thing. Okay, so in terms of technology affecting live music, it has massively, because back in the day, if you wanted to play live, you had to be a good musician, you had to spend years learning to play the guitar, playing the drums, and then kind of practice together as a unit, as a band. But now, you'll be surprised. You may be aware of this or not, but even a lot of the biggest bands rely heavily on backing tracks, overly so in some cases, and also it allows some bands to mime stuff, have vocals on backing track as well. And if you go onto YouTube, there's quite a few things where people have been exposed for miming, and even a current one, Katy Perry, her current tour, apparently she mimes a lot on it, doesn't do a lot of live singing. So technology in some ways has actually made it better. The band that I'm in, if I was trying to do that kind of band, 15, 20 years ago, I'd have to have tons of keyboards on stage. I can now get away with just having a computer and a couple of keyboards and more of a cut down setup. So it has had some advantages.
I just can't get enough. 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 And when it rains, you're shining down on me. I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. Just like a rainbow, you said to bring up. I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. You're like an angel and you give me your love.
With performance, I'm in a tribute band, so it's very kind of different to being in an originals band or a band that actually sells their own music. I know that a lot of live venues are struggling. I mean, a lot of live venues are shutting down for a variety of reasons, from not being able to afford to kind of keep running, but also there's always property developers that are keen to knock down places and build flats on them, which is, so actually, I don't know, some people will think a lot harder before going to a live gig now in terms of the cost of it, and maybe people go less to live gigs than they used to. I don't know, it's hard to comment on show sizes and people we have, because we average between maybe 200 and 300 people at our gigs, which is pretty decent. But it depends on the venue, and whether we played there before or not as well. Yeah. Again, in terms of ticket prices, it really depends on the venue, because with tribute bands, venues tend to usually have a fixed price. We might play one venue where the price is like £12 a ticket, and we don't really have much in the way of say as to what we charge. But other ones, it might be £15, £16. We play some festivals where you're going to be paying £100 a ticket. But I think what you'll find with tribute bands is it's a lot cheaper to see us or other tributes than it is to see the real band. And there are even things like tribute festivals now where they often have quite kind of not amusing names. We're playing one called Glastonbury, which is in Barry in Wales, and I think there's one called Glaston Budget as well. But yeah, so you can still see a load of bands, but it's a lot cheaper than paying, I don't know, £300-400 to go to the real Glastonbury. So, but yeah, I think ticket prices haven't gone up massively for tributes, but I know they have for real bands. Yeah. I come from a musical family, so that kind of got me into music. So my dad and my granddad both played keyboards, and I have a younger sister, and it encouraged both of us to actually learn to play keyboards. So we got an electronic keyboard in the house when we were both young, and we used to fight over who would play it. And then it got me into bands, writing music, producing music. So my sister, she's a music teacher, so it had an impact on her as well. But also just kind of getting into the music I liked back then, thinking actually I'd quite like to write and play stuff like this. Right, so COVID wrecked live music completely for a couple of years. With my band, we literally got together just before COVID came together. We were rehearsing, thought great, we're gonna get a band together. And then suddenly, that hit, and then there were no gigs. And then when there were gigs, a lot of people were frightened to come to gigs because they thought they were going to catch COVID, and there was a real kind of fear factor with a lot of people, and it put a lot of people going to gigs. They did ridiculous things where I remember an artist that I really like called Gary Newman. He did a gig where it was an outdoor gig, and you could park your car in a little space with a fence around it, and there was another space with a fence around it. So people were all kind of separated. It was really, really odd. Yeah, really odd. But it had a massive detrimental effect on live music. Yeah.
Now we will hear from music enthusiast Darian Blake.
I'm Darian Blake, and I have a massive passion for music.
How long have you been going to live music events?
Since I was about 16, I went to the Leeds Festival.
What first gave you your interest in live music?
I seen Oasis play at Wembley, and I saw the atmosphere and I loved it.
What style of music is your favourite to see and why?
Indie rock, like your Oasis, Verve, Killers.
Have you noticed an increase in ticket prices for concerts?
Yeah, I remember when I was like say 16, I think I paid about 45 quid, and now you're looking about 150 to 200 quid.
What is the most you're willing to pay to see your favourite artist live?
I think the last one I seen, which I really loved, was Eminem, and that was about 135 quid. Obviously going up to now to 200 quid. I'd probably pay about 150 to 200 quid.
What's the next live music event you're going to, and did you think you overpaid for your ticket?
Next one going to is Reading Festival in August. I paid 120 quid for that. It's quite reasonable. with other prices. So yeah, I was happy with that.
With your help, we can make a change and make the music industry accessible once again.